The stealth espionage genre is kind of having a resurgence as of late. We're seeing indie devs bring us exciting titles such as Shadow Gambit and Shadow Tactics, and even Konami themselves is reviving the Metal Gear Solid series with Delta. Enter Sumerian Six. Published by indie darling Devolver Digital, Sumerian Six aims to lead the audience through a violent yet playful stealth journey inspired by World War II urban legends. Will Sumerian Six set off alarm bells, or will it just sneak under your radar? Let's expose this game's plan in our full review.
How about no?
Sumerian Six follows the story of the Enigma Squad, a team of scientist spies with superpowers. The game is set in a fictionalized World War II era based on real-life conspiracy theories, as well as tall tales. The Enigma Squad fights against the Third Reich through a series of secret missions seeking to take out Hans Himmler. Himmler is an ex-Enigma member himself and has utilized his own abilities to create a substance called Geiststoff, which, when combined with Sumerian artifacts, is used to enhance Nazi soldiers and basically turn them into super-powered human weapons. Throughout the story, we will get to control different characters, each with a unique set of abilities, as well as their own personal story that intertwines with this resistance against Himmler. I'll say, I quite liked Sumerian Six's setting. Something about this sci-fi take on World War II is just so enjoyable. I love the rustic take on technological advancements and incorporating some more paranormal aspects as well. In fact, the more folklore take on World War II kind of reminds me of Wolfenstein. However, I do think the story isn't told that well. A lot of names and terms get thrown around, and this becomes hard to keep track of. On top of that, character dialogue could help elucidate more lore, but the problem is, critical dialogue happens when I'm trying to study the paths of guards. Thus, a lot of the story sort of becomes background noise and loses me in the process. With that said, the B-movie style narrative avoids hard-hitting plot points, and it's easy enough to get the gist of. Essentially, I see the plot as a vehicle for gameplay, and speaking of gameplay, we can see some ambitious game design.
Such a beautiful view.
I'd like it more without all the Nazis.
Right off the bat, I will say Sumerian 6 is pretty damn difficult. Ultimately, you'll be moving characters through subsections of levels that are littered with enemies, trying to survive and get to your goal. How do we do that? Well, by sneaking around them, of course. But that's not entirely accurate. Yes, Sumerian 6 is a stealth game, but with a higher focus on killing enemies rather than simply sneaking past them. Thankfully, a lot of these kills are satisfying. Most characters have two attack options, a long-range projectile and a short-range melee. The melee abilities are nice and snappy, but gunplay is a bit weird. Guns act more as an area of effect style ability rather than point and shoot. So if an enemy is outside of your attack area, your character will automatically move to get the target in range, and it just feels weird and can put you in a bad spot. Additionally, pathfinding isn't the best. As mentioned, all characters have unique abilities and variations of main attacks. These are generally fun to use. My favorite character, Rosa, has probably the best skills. Her melee attack disintegrates enemies, and her long-range attack is a remote detonation that can kill groups of enemies. Other notable powers range from turning invisible to transforming into a werebear. All characters have some sort of distraction ability among the combat and stealth powers. Along the way, you'll be getting upgrades for these abilities, though I personally didn't notice any difference in their effectiveness. While characters are fun to use, I will say that they shine best when you're only controlling one character at a time. The problem is, you will usually be controlling more than one character at a time, and I don't think these powers are really designed such that they complement or synergize with one another. Rather, I get a sense as if I'm playing completely different styles on the same map. Enemies have large visibility ranges, and controlling multiple characters just provides more bodies for them to spot. As a result, the game was most fun and fair when I had a solo character, and felt more cheap and frustrating when I had multiple. You can't even move the characters all at once, which is incredibly annoying and makes movements slow. All of this just restricted my own freedom as a player, as if I had to go through the level in an intended path rather than play around with the abilities given to me. A final note on enemies. They are complete doofuses. You can alarm enemies and then run into some tall grass, and they'll immediately lose sight of you. I'm mixed on this because while I do feel that there are some cheap difficulty spikes, I don't think we should be able to just hide from enemies so easily right in front of them. It felt unsatisfying to hide and inconsequential to be found. The game is not supported on Steam Deck, but there is controller support, which feels pretty okay. It's not as clunky as I expected it to be. The use of ability wheels and tactical pauses help you to avoid mistaken button inputs. A note on controls though, the default keyboard controls are absolutely awful. I don't know who thought it was a good idea to have WASD trigger abilities rather than control the camera, which goes against all experience I have with other tactical games. Luckily, you do have the freedom to change up controls, including a classic preset, which brings back the number key controls for abilities, and WASD to control the camera pan, with Q and E rotating the camera. So I recommend using this preset as it made the game actually feel tolerable to play. Sumerian 6 takes on a semi-realistic, almost comic book looking noir art style. Characters aren't terribly well detailed, but that makes sense given the top-down perspective. Luckily, environments are pretty well detailed. Levels feel like dioramas, almost playing out like a mission briefing map that you'd see in a spy movie, which is fitting given the style of game. I like the visuals used for enemy visibility as well. You can see their vision range where they'll immediately spot you, the range where it'll take some time to get to notice you, and then where they have no eyes on you at all through a colored cone. The soundtrack takes on a neat jazzy vibe, evoking 1940s spy movie. Going through missions with this sweet jazz drum and bass lines while you're sneaking around makes you feel as if you have your own theme song following you through an action movie.
Sumerians, here, geography is not your strong suit, is it?
There are slight variations in the soundtrack with a nice dry cymbal crash when an enemy spots you, and this acts as a nice transition to like the danger music, while doubling as an audio cue saying, hey, maybe get out of sight. Overall, the game performs well. I had one crash, and then I also had a bug in the first mission where enemies wouldn't reset to their guard position after they got alarmed. There was also a pretty annoying bug where after alarming guards, the autosave stopped triggering. This meant I sometimes would be sent back to the beginning of a level if I forgot to quick save, making levels feel significantly longer than they needed to be, as well as significantly more frustrating and fatiguing than I think they were intended to be. Luckily, this autosave bug is known by the developers and they have already patched it, so it should be patched at release. Additionally, the devs will have patched enemy AI issues and improved balancing throughout the levels, so at release, a lot of the bugginess I experience will be fixed. Sumerian 6 brings a nice historical science fiction World War II setting to players and succeeds at character ability diversity, environmental design, art and music style, and the premise of the plot. However, I feel levels are not well designed for moments when you're controlling multiple characters, and you'll be doing this often. I also think enemies can be kind of stupid, which breaks immersion and satisfaction of the typical stealth playstyle. There are some unfair difficulty spikes as well, where I feel like I just have to take a hit because there's absolutely no way to get out of the enemy's sight range. All in all, I don't think this game is for everyone. In fact, I think it can turn some new players away. Sumerian 6 isn't bad, but it wasn't my kind of game. I do like tactical games, and I like stealth games, but this just didn't click with me. Here at I Dream of Indie Games, we use a categorical system to rate our games. We have the Bronze Genie Lamp for a game that might be worth playing but has quite a few issues, the Silver Genie Lamp for great games with some more minor issues, and then we have the Golden Genie Lamp for essential games. Mediocre games get awarded the Rusty Lamp, and then we summon the Indie Krampus for games that aren't worth playing at all. I'm giving Sumerian 6 the Bronze Genie Lamp, as I believe there is an audience for this game, but it's not going to be bringing in any new players, and there are some fundamental issues when playing with more than one character that keep me from enjoying it.
Almost melts one's heart. It's like you never existed.